I met a gypsy.
So for me, I feel like I've always been really good at getting over things pretty quick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you do have to be kind of salty about things for a little bit to like make sure you learn from it too, right? You can't just forget about everything every time something happens. Like you still got to figure it out and learn from it. And so I feel like she helps me kind of like, get mad at things when I need to get mad. And then, I feel like I've got a really good balance.
Yeah, that's awesome because not a lot of people get that right. And a lot of people can rob themselves of joy throughout their careers.
Yeah, if we were both the same, it would be really bad, right? And you live up here, you live down here, and for me, in racing, right? Like in NASCAR, you're going to lose more theoretically than you're going to win. Like everybody in our sport, nobody has won more than 50% of our races, so you're gonna lose more than you win, and you got to take the ups and downs. And our sport can be brutal. I mean, 2023, we had a great season. We averaged like a 14th place finish, throughout the whole season. And then, 2024, we averaged a 24th place finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's like seasons just change. And, it's like, I didn't feel like we did anything different, but we didn't get the good results that we had the year before. So then, we're kind of scratching our head and kind of restarting for 2025.
It kind of feels like I'm definitely not going to claim to be a NASCAR expert through this podcast too.
Oh, so, no, you're fine.
But it feels like the kind of sport where it's as cliche as it sounds. If you're not first, you're last. Really?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think our sport, it's more of like if you run in the top 10, it's like that was a solid day.
And that's respected throughout.
That's everybody in the garage thinks that, I feel like. If you can average a 10th place finish, you would have a really good shot at winning the championship. So, put that into perspective, right? Like Supercross, I feel like you got to average like a 3.1 or it's got to be fairly low.
Yeah.
In our sport, I mean, it's, because there's 40 of us or 36 of us every weekend, sometimes more, everybody's solid. Everybody's got good equipment, and
and they're all great drivers because the competition to get there is so fierce, right?
It takes a lot to get there.
Yeah,
and I mean, like I said, you're gonna lose more than you're gonna win. And like I had a buddy that won 10 races one year, and he went on to win the championship, but he had a great season, and I think he averaged better than a 10 that year. But like, I would say, I don't know the exact stats, but it's close to a 10 will get you a championship. Yeah. So top 10s are solid.
Well, and I guess that's pretty cool then to know, because I feel like it's one of the downsides of Supercross in a way, like to compare those two sports, is that if you're not on the podium, you're like literally nothing. Like it just barely, it doesn't even count essentially.
Yeah, I would say, because we don't do podiums, right? Like it's only the winner in victory lane.
And I think that's kind of what I was getting at in a way, is like, that's the dude.
Like,
you just win, you're the guy, everyone else go back to the garage.
Exactly.
We're just looking at this dude.
Yeah, and you're that guy for the week, and then, hey, you got to put your helmet on and get back in the car for the next week, and you might not be that guy, right? So, it's all about averages. If I could win 10 races a year and not win the championship, I'd probably be okay with that, but but you still want championships, right?
Yeah.
There's been guys in our sport back in the day that won one race and won the championship out of 38 races because their average was where it needed to be. Now our playoffs are just totally different than it used to be back then. Now we reset after 10 races, and then, or for 10 races to go, we reset, and then every 3 races it resets again and kicks people out, and then our final race is just winner take all. So like, could you imagine in like a Supercross race, like
Jason Anderson would win every single year,
every title.
He would just show up on
him
that
and
one
Barsha,
and just be like, "I'm getting another chip."
Yeah, because it's in Supercross. Like I feel like, you all start right next to each other, and it's just game on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our sport has changed a little bit over times, and I think the fans enjoy it.
How do you guys feel about the changes?
There's things that we enjoy about it, and there's things that, you know, I definitely think that we would change. You know, I don't think there's any, just like when you make a rule, right? At some point, something's going to happen where it's like, man, that rule wasn't very good. Like something's always going to happen.
Yeah.
And so,
And it's very rare to get it right the first go.
yeah, so like they made the playoffs and it was like a 10 race stretch. You know, it reset, it was a 10, the best guy out of the 12 that made the playoffs, you know, start at 0, there you go. I thought that was pretty good. But now it's like kind of like the, you know, NBA finals or, you know, Stanley Cup where, you know, after 3 rounds, you know, 4 guys are out. You know, you start with 16 and then, you know, work it down to 4. And so, I mean, they've talked about changing things up a little bit, but I don't really know what you're going to do. Like, we all know the system, and you just got to play by those rules and try and beat the system.
And so, how many guys start the race? So, does the actual race get smaller each?
No, see,
or
that's
it's-
that's the odd thing about our sport is, you know,
So
Stanley
just
Cup,
the-
it's only those 2 teams, right?
yeah,
Like for us, everybody else is still out there.
But they're just not getting the points.
We're still racing for our own points. Like if you make the playoffs and say you blew an engine in the first race, and then the next 2 races you ran okay, but you didn't have enough points to advance to the next round, you're knocked out of the playoffs. But you could still technically finish 5th in our playoffs. Like, you know, anybody that gets kicked out, they still are gaining points. And so, like, you still have something to race for. And all of us do. And there's big money between different spots. You know, between like 25th and 26th, I mean, it might be $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah, right.
You know, for the team. And so, you know, there's different areas of, you know, levels of where you finish in points. And so if you could go from finishing 16th in points to 8th, then, you know, that's a big chunk of money. And
Yeah.
so you still have things to race for, but yeah, people are racing for a championship and you're on the racetrack with them. And like that race is the only thing that determines our champion. So it's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is wild. Has it increased like viewership, and do you think it's done what it's set out to do?
I don't know if the playoffs have, but like our sport in general, I feel like our fans are, I don't know if our fans are coming back or we're getting new ones
Newer
or
fans.
both,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But you can feel a surge.
Oh, yeah. You know, week in and week out at the racetrack,
That's awesome.
just the intensity level and the fans hanging out are great. Our ticket sales are good. Viewership's been great. And yeah, I would say over the last kind of 3-4 years, you know, the viewership has actually been going up, where I feel like a lot of sports have been kind of stagnant or going down. And so trying to get your viewership up in this market is kind of difficult. And I think they're doing a good job with it.
Yeah. That's really cool to hear, man. Like, I know it definitely had like a rougher patch.
Yeah, I mean, like when I came into the sport, my first Daytona 500 was 2012. And I think that year we had like 13.5 million viewers or something. You know, but I don't know the lowest number that our Daytona 500 dropped to. But I know it's been going up the last 2, 3, 4 years. And, you know, I think we're close to 8 million this year.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.